Welcome to the Going Somewhere podcast, a podcast for anyone who finds themselves in the ambiguous adventure of young adulthood, a season marked by uncertainty, change, love, heartbreak, and a whole lot of big decisions. Sit down with me for some real and raw conversations with some incredible people as we dig into what it looks like to be a follower of Jesus in this beautiful yet complicated season of life. If this podcast helps you in any way, please subscribe, leave a review, share with friends, and join the conversation on Instagram by following goingsomewhere.podcast. We're all going somewhere. We might as well go there together. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey everyone, Steven here, and we've got a special episode for you today. I'm joined by one of my best friends in the entire world, Steve Pavek. Steve and his wife Erin live in Anchorage, Alaska, where they planted a Chi Alpha campus ministry about 9 years ago at the University of Alaska Anchorage, and they're currently working to also bring a consistent gospel witness to the villages in rural Alaska. There's over 100 villages in Alaska that do not have a consistent gospel witness, and they are there to help bridge that gap and to send workers into the harvest field. And so this conversation today is going to be challenging. It's going to be something that maybe causes you to rethink just the way that you go about your everyday faith. When he talks about the challenges that he's faced and his missionaries that are in the villages day in and day out, what they face, it can't help but kind of stretch you and pull you out of your comfort zone. And so that's what I hope this conversation is for you today. And before we jump in to this conversation, I just want to invite you, if you haven't already, to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to the podcast. Make sure that you get the notification when new episodes come. But also, if you haven't ever done it, leave a rating and a review. It helps more people see the podcast. And one of the greatest gifts as a podcaster, one of the greatest things you can do is share it with your friends. If there's an episode or a clip that we post that really jumps out at you, that helps you along the way, share it with somebody and point more people to the podcast. We're here to serve. Young adulthood is an ambiguous adventure, and anything that we can do to help more young adults really step into that season with confidence and boldness, that's why we exist. So let's head in to today's episode with Steve Pavek. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Going Somewhere podcast. Today I am joined by one of my best friends in the entire world, Steve Pavek. What's up, Steve?
Hey, it's good to be here. Big fan, long-time listener, first time on the podcast.
First time caller?
Yes, first time visitor.
Hey, I'm excited to have you. When I made my list of 20 in the beginning of the podcast, that's probably how long I thought this would last. And we've gone farther, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You were on that list. I was just like, I couldn't have it over Zoom. I had to have you in person.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
Here you are. Here you are. I just want to talk a little bit about our friendship. You know, before we get into that though, why don't you just give us like the grand scheme? Who is Steve Pavek to the person that doesn't know you?
Yeah, so my wife Erin and I live in Alaska. We've been doing Chi Alpha, which is a college ministry up there for the last 9 years now. And we are also now training up Chi Alpha alumni, college alumni, to use their degrees to go and gain access to villages in Alaska. There's 100 villages in Alaska without a consistent gospel witness. And so we're training them to be cross-cultural, marketplace ministers who are working secular jobs, but planting house churches and discipleship movements amongst the Alaskan Native people in Alaska.
And you're killing it.
Well, I mean, we're having fun.
So I think, you know, our friendship goes back, how many years now? 14 years. About 14 years when I was a freshman in college.
We're old.
Right? Yeah. I'm 32.
Wow.
I was 18.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But you were an older student, and we weren't like crazy close, but we had this deep love for baseball and the Minnesota Twins. And, you know, that led us on one of my most memorable experiences in my life, which I've never told in the podcast. Because why would I tell that story without you? Because you're the dreamer friend. You're the friend that's going to push the envelope. You're the one that's going to have the crazy idea and the stupidity to do it.
Yeah, I like that word. That's definitely me.
So we're at spring break, Fargo, North Dakota. It's cold, snowy. Let's go to Florida. Let's watch some twin spring training.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, I mean, like, I actually remember it quite well. I remember it vividly.
I remember it well too.
We're driving down I-29 and I look ahead and there's like this ominous cloud. And I turned to you. I don't know if you remember this.
I remember every detail of everything that happened.
I said, "Oh, there's a little squall up there." And
I asked.
You said, "What's a squall?" I said, "Oh, it's like a small gust of wind that blows some snow up, and you drive through it, and you get to the other side, and you're fine." That's a squall.
Yeah.
It was not a squall. It was a full-blown death blizzard. Yeah, that had us. The problem is I'm a pretty when I get my mindset on something, I don't really quit, right? Like if there's a wall in my way, I just beat my head against the wall until I'm through the other side. I've always been that way. I don't know how to change. I'm in a support group on Wednesday nights for it, but I'm actually not. But so
you should be.
You probably should be. So we run into this blizzard and rather than doing the sensible thing, which is stopping, turning around, Florida is the aim. That's the target.
Yeah.
We will not stop.
You missing the national anthem at a spring training baseball game was the worst thing that could have happened.
Oh.
You were dead set on we are getting there by the first pitch. But that led us to some not great decisions.
Yeah.
The interstate, we literally the bar is down, interstate's shut. Steve, hey, I'm pretty sure we called one of your ex-girlfriends who lived in Sioux Falls at the time.
Not one of my proudest moments.
See how the weather was.
Yeah, totally.
And so we took the back roads, and I just remember being on a hill in your tiny Toyota Echo, and the wind literally spun us on the icy road. We did a full, almost 360.
We were going up a hill, and eventually it was so icy and so windy, the wind and ice just stopped us, and we stopped moving. And then I tried to back down the hill, and the wind caught the car and just spun us in a circle. Yeah,
and we got to a rest area by the grace of God, and then by the not grace of Steve, you said rest areas are for the weak. Let's keep going.
I did
if we go
that.
4 miles this way or 2 miles this way, we will hit a road that will be summer. And,
summer. Yes.
And we went 2 miles there, 2 miles back in an hour's time. I called my brother from a bathroom stall, telling him, "Don't tell mom and dad, but I might die today." Oh. But hey, this is how the story ends. I punched your dashboard, and I think I told you, I don't know, I didn't swear at you, but I thought about it, and then we made it to Florida.
We did,
and we had one of the greatest times of my life.
Yes, and I mean, now you look back, and it's that. Had the blizzard not happened like that, Florida would have been fun, but it wouldn't have been, as memorable.
It wouldn't have been in my top 2 experiences of my life.
Exactly.
And I think you've had dozens of near-death experiences, which is troubling, I think, to some people.
Yes.
Why do you keep doing it? But that's my main near-death experience, and so I was glad to have my Sherpa Steve along for the ride. That was one of your first, but
yes.
You've been down that road many times. But that wasn't our last road trip. We went to, when you moved to Alaska, Taylor and I, we were just dating at the time, but we got to drive with you guys, move you to Alaska.
Yes.
Almost killed a moose or almost got killed by a moose is probably the better way to phrase that, on the way to Alaska. But no, I just appreciate you, your friendship, your dreaming. What kind of led you to Alaska? Because you were a science teacher, but you had a call to ministry. So how did you end up in Alaska in the first place?
Yeah, I was teaching science in Fargo, North Dakota here, and but Alaska had been on my heart for a while. So I had gone up there for the first time when I was a junior in college, and I found out about 2 needs. Number one was that there was not a single Chi Alpha in the entire state. And on top of that, there wasn't a single college ministry on the campus of University of Alaska, Anchorage. 17,000 students, no organization for ministry happening on that campus. I was at North Dakota State at the time where I could have picked from one of 12 viable ministry options. And it just didn't sit right with me that, like, how can there be this big of a need, this big of a gap for the gospel in a place. And I remember thinking, that's stupid. Somebody should do something about this, right? And the Lord said, well, maybe you should. Yeah. And then that same summer, I got to go to travel to a village in Western Alaska. To put this into perspective to people, we were like 200 miles from Russia. We were 450 miles away from a road. So very remote, way out there. To make a very long story short, I was exposed to a need that I didn't know existed, to a people group that I didn't know were living in as much pain and hurt and brokenness, the most pain and most brokenness I'd ever seen, ever experienced. And I watched Jesus like radically break through that brokenness this week at a Bible camp. And I stood on the banks of the Yukon River as this week at a really incredible Bible camp wrapped up. And I said goodbye to these kids, and I sent many of them home, back right into the environments that caused them their pain, caused them their brokenness, and sent many of them home to villages without pastors or churches. And as a junior in college, I remember standing on the banks of the Yukon River with tears in my eyes, thinking to myself, like, this is stupid. Somebody needs to do something about this. And God said, well, maybe you should do something about it. And so that's kind of where the journey to Alaska, as I would say, the Lord lit a pilot light in my heart. The what if moment, like maybe this is what the Lord has. And fast forward, that was 13 years ago. And fast forward, and God has me there, and is using, college ministry to impact every single corner of the state of Alaska. We believe that that's what's happened, and that's going to continue to happen.
Man, I remember, first of all, like you went on your own, and then you brought students to that same camp in Alaska. And I got to go, I think the second year we took a group of students, and that environment was, I mean, there's something about it that, you don't leave the same, like you see the need, and it's just you interact with those kids and you realize the life that they live and like all that. And so we've had this like strong pipeline now of students we go to Alaska. Our college ministry goes to Alaska every year. We have for the last over a decade now, and which is awesome, which is so cool. But like, that's like how I see you, as you're somebody that goes first and you're a pioneer, you're a trailblazer. Has that always been kind of like the mentality for Steve? Like even going back when you're younger, was pioneering, trailblazing, going first, taking the risk kind of in your DNA?
Yeah, I think so. I think that even like looking back when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be the first person, the front person on a hike. There's something about like an unexplored land that just, I don't know, there's a romance to it to me that like I can't help myself. I need to go there. In Alaska, it's just one more peak. Let's get over that one more peak and see what's over there. And so, yeah, I think that's always been a part of my heart. I don't think I realized that like when something like that is in your life, I think everybody has something like this in their life that just comes naturally to them, and they don't realize that it's maybe like not everybody thinks the way that they think in that moment or sees what they see in that moment. So yeah, I think that's always been part of my life. And I think that's what drew me to Alaska, was that there was this significant need in a place that was significantly difficult to live. And no one seemingly was like lining up and signing up to go do it. There wasn't like a long list of, resumes and ministry applications to be like, right, I want to be the one to go to this obscure, difficult place. And right, for whatever reason, I'm like, yes, sign me up. That is where I want to be. And that's where I want to be for the rest of my life, I think. So, is in those places.
Right. And I remember, when you told people you're going to Alaska, there was no surprise. Like there was no, like when you were like, I'm leaving Fargo, and nobody like gasped like, oh, Steve's leaving Fargo for Alaska. But I remember the last week you were in Fargo, or like your last Chi Alpha, our context, Thursday night worship service at NDSU's campus. And you spoke, it was your final week. And I remember sitting in the back with you and Nick Meskey, and we just had our arms around each other crying, but also like, there was something kind of birthed in me that day where I kind of had this like wrestling of, am I, Steve is pioneering, he's going like, and I felt like maybe, do I need to go to live out my calling? Like, do I need to, cause you have a way of just stirring people to embrace their calling. But for me, it was such like a secure of like, who's going to pioneer here? Like who's going to go first? Who's going to lead the way here into the uncharted territory? And I feel like that was kind of an invitation of me of like we talk about it, but like my everyday adventure, like that's my mindset. That's the book I'm hoping to write. Like that kind of, you were a catalyst for that. And that moment was a catalyst for that, because it kind of took me from, all right, I can stay in the safe, comfortable place, familiar faces, friendships, family, but live in a totally different way, Yeah. And it was kind of like a spark in my heart of like, you don't need to go across the world to find adventure or to live out your calling. You can just open your eyes to what it is in front of you as well. Yeah. Not that people shouldn't go to those places, but can you talk about that a little bit of just like what that looks like, for a lot of our listeners today, maybe somebody's listening to this on the way to their 9-to-5 accounting job, or they're in maybe a career that they're like, yeah, there's not much adventure in this job or this task or being a parent or whatever the case is. But how can you really cultivate that pioneering spirit that I think we're all built in some way to have that?
Yeah. I when you look at the Bible and you look at who Jesus was, like the dude was a disruptor, right? And he discipled a bunch of disruptors, and it's so fun when I read the Gospels, you catch glimpses of the differences in some of the disciples' personalities.
Right.
And they all went and did different things. They all went to different places. And they all accomplished things for the kingdom of God, but they did it in their own unique way based off of the personality. And so, but all of them followed Jesus's example of like not being okay with the status quo. So it can be, I think that like we're all called to be kingdom advancers. And so, for Erin and I, that looked like moving to Alaska. And so often, and Erin and I hear this a lot, and we laugh at it because we hear, well, I could never do what you do. And it's like, and it's so funny because most of the time we just, we just feel like we're faking it till we make it, right? Like we're like,
right.
Like I don't like, and we actually like legitimately can't imagine living anywhere else or doing anything else. And so I think that like what it looks like what it can look like to anybody is you have that coworker at your office, and their life trajectory right now is leading to death and destruction. Do you have vision for that person's life that is going to disrupt their current life trajectory?
Right.
You're a pioneer. You're a kingdom pioneer. You are capitalizing on a kingdom opportunity. But you need to see, if you refuse to see the vision of what could be for that individual, then you'll never fight to make that a reality. And so you need to just say, okay, like something here is not as it should be, right? This is stupid. My coworker is like living a life that will lead to death, destruction, and eventually lead them to hell. Like, does that bother me enough? And do I know what's possible through Jesus? And does that inspire me enough to say, no, I'm going to be a disruptor for that trajectory in their life?
Right. Well, and I think, the hard things are oftentimes the right things. The easy things are oftentimes the wrong things. And I think that's part of that like mindset too, of like, okay, that doesn't matter where you're at. You do a lot of hard things, and you can maybe talk about some of like the practical hard things that you've had to walk through, and maybe even some of the missionaries that are on the front lines, in the villages that maybe are obvious taking out of comfort zone. And then let's maybe talk about, okay, what are some of those things in our everyday lives? But why don't you share some of the stories just out of the comfort zone for you and your missionaries?
Well, we always joke that like everything in Alaska is trying to kill you, right? Like, so like,
I went on a hike, in Alaska, and it was with our mutual friend, and we were taking the bear mace, and we saw like, bear tracks, and she reacted in no way, and I was like, that's a fresh bear track, and that's a fresh bear turn, and I am freaking out. Like, it is trying to kill me. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Oh, totally. And I just, and nothing comes easy. We had for this current fundraising campaign that we're doing, we had a video team up to film our campaign video, and we fly out to Bethel. It's January. We drive 100 miles on the ice road. It's 57 below zero with wind chill. Like, we're driving on the ice road, and there's like markers like don't drive here. And our video team's from Florida, right? It was hilarious. And they're like, well, what are all those markers for? I'm like, oh, that's open water. And it's like 50 feet away from where the ice road is like going. They're like, what happens if we fall in? I go, oh, we all die. And they're like, I was like, no, I'm serious. We're all dead if we fall in this river. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, even if we get out of the river, we die of hypothermia, right? So, so they're like, oh, and we get out to Tuluksak. It's 57 below zero. The van won't start in the morning. It's just like everything. We get back to the church. It's so cold. Our key breaks off in the keyhole. Like, now we're like locked out of a church. It's 57 below zero. Like, everything was difficult. We get done with the week, and they're like, Steve, you guys need more money. This is crazy. They're like, I can't believe you live like this. And it's like, and it's just, I think it's, what's funny is that when you're in that environment, you don't really like think about this as being like abnormal. It's just like, oh, this is just life, and we just are going to figure it out. One of my like inspirations that I always look to are like the missionaries of old. Again, that statement, I could never do what you do.
Right.
It's like, are you kidding me? The Lord has asked me to move to a place that, it's a long ways away. Yeah, I'm a long ways away from family, and I had to leave things. But like, comparatively to some of the things that early missionaries needed to leave, like, I have a cell phone. I have internet connectivity. I can Skype, that's weird. That's old. I can, FaceTime or make a Zoom call to my parents and to my family. I can get on a plane and be back in the Midwest on a 6-hour flight. The early missionaries who went to Alaska literally said goodbye to their families, knowing full well that they would never see them again. And not just never see them again, never talk to them again. There's no mail systems in the early Alaskan territory. Like, that's it. Like, they said goodbye, and they said goodbye. Wow. And I'm like, that's sacrifice. Like, what I'm doing is comparatively really honestly like a small thing. And you look at the early church, and all of them gave their lives for the kingdom of God to be advanced. And so it's all about perspective. And when you compare it to those levels of sacrifice, then it's like, this is actually not a huge thing.
Here, I'm going to push back.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people do. I don't, but I think a lot of people do, of like, well, Steve, you're just extreme. Like, you're built different, like you say that, but that's an extreme version. Mm-hmm. And what would you say to that comment?
Wow. I would say that taking risks for Jesus is a lot like a muscle that needs to just be worked out. And so, yeah, Alaska was a huge risk, but and so often missionaries come and they talk about these things that the Lord called them to, and they always talk about them in hindsight. And so it was like, well, then the Lord called us and we went and everything worked out and here I am today, right? What they don't tell you is about the fact that they were probably intimidated and like scared beyond anything they could have ever comprehended. And that was true of Erin and I. Like there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of anxiety, and you build capacity to handle those things. So the first time I went to Alaska, I wish I could say like I went to Alaska and everything was great. I was homesick. I was miserable for the first month and a half that I was there. I was a big weenie, right? But like, had I not done that, I would not have built that muscle to say yes to a bigger yes in the future. So I would just say yes to the small things, do things that make you uncomfortable, even just in the slightest bit, and build that uncomfortability tolerance in your life. And the Lord will continue to, like the next thing that the Lord asks you to do, won't seem as intimidating.
I think the best things in our life, that we've really found are on the other side of the comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that stretch us, the things that pull us out. And I think it's easy to probably sit, and this was me in the back row of Century Theater, 9 years ago, was I was comparing myself to you. I was going like, man, Steve's doing it. He must be doing it the real way. And that was kind of the invitation of like, what's the uncomfortable place that God's inviting me into? And I think like you mentioned earlier, I think a lot of it has to do with how you pursue your everyday life when it comes to, okay, yeah, you can go to your job, get your paycheck, do your job well even, but have no vision for change, of the lives of the people around you, or just even the way that we do family. Like we can live in our broken family patterns, generational patterns, where there's artificial, harmony and all these things, or you can have the hard conversations that will produce life-giving relationship with a parent, and sometimes it does mean picking up and going somewhere different. And, our stint on the East Coast was short, but that's how it felt. Like the call for us was the Abraham call of go to the place that I'll show you. Like we had a job lined up, like we went for a job and stuff, but the long term, we felt like this is the go to the place I will show you, like just go take the step. But I think it's that taking that first step, like you said, like you have to flex that muscle of taking risks. And, when you look at just the church today in the West and in North America, the lower 48, like just your experience now, you obviously work in the villages, totally different context. Like having just a church building, is the sanctuary. Like you said last night at our event, that's like the most insignificant part. It's the life. It's when you're out on the snow machine, like that's where ministry takes place. Yeah. But when you look at like the church today, like what are some of your insights, of how we do church, or not just us, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would say that we have to be so careful in American Christianity to we're so individualistic as a society, and we're a consumer culture, and so everything revolves around, okay, what is this doing for me? And I think that's creeped its way into the church to a degree. And I'm not just talking about I'm not just talking about like the prosperity gospel. I'm talking about like, okay, what is being involved in this church going to do for me and for my family? What is this leadership position? How is this leadership position going to grow me? How is this volunteer opportunity going to grow me? And really, if we're not careful, we're asking like Jesus, like how are you going to serve me? How's following you going to serve me? Versus like, Jesus, you're Lord. Like, how can I serve you? And if I have to live my life, the rest of my life in obscurity, like for you, like I'll do it. If I have to live my life in a difficult situation, I'll do it. But like asking that question and avoiding that consumer mentality, is, so important. And I think the other thing is that we're just like very afraid to fail. Like we're just like so afraid of, well, what if something doesn't work out? Or when I was moving to Alaska, or like wrestling through the decision of moving to Alaska, because again, like it was a wrestling match. I loved my life in Fargo, and I loved my friends here, and I loved the ministry here. It was hard to leave, and I was wrestling, and I remember I'm on the phone with my dad, and I was wrestling with some things with him, and just like saying, well, I'm not sure about this, and I'm not sure about this. And he finally he said something that would forever change my life. He said, Steve, what are you so worried about? So what do you mean? This is a big decision. Like, this is huge. And and what if this is wrong? What if this, and he goes, Steve, last time I checked, the road to Alaska goes both ways. If it doesn't work out, just come home. I was like, I never really thought about that. And it was like this freeing statement. I think sometimes as Christians, we get so like fearful, like, what if I get it wrong? Like, what if I miss God's will? And it almost like paralyzes us. And I see this a lot specifically in young adults. Like, I don't have a step-by-step playbook or a step-by-step instruction manual or a step-by-step YouTube tutorial as to how to do this specific thing. And we almost just get like paralyzed. Like, like really? Like God is going to teach you probably more in your failure and in your mistakes than he would be in your successes anyways. And so if it doesn't work out the way you had planned or the way that you had thought, like turn around and do something else. God is much bigger than that. Like we will not disrupt his good, pleasing, perfect, and infinitely sovereign will by making something like I was supposed to choose B and I chose A, right? Like that's a very small view of God, to be honest. So yeah.
That's so good. I think a framework, like if I put a framework on Steve, you've always done this teaching of like, we always say, you just said it, what if it doesn't work? But turning it on its head of like, what if it does work? And I think, I think that was part of your final message, to us as students at the time, because I was still a student I think I was still a student at the time. And it was just, what if it does work? Like, what if you say yes to God and it goes beyond your wildest imagination? I think that's what happens more often than not. Amen. But it's that line that we have a hard time crossing, whether it's the big things or the little things. Like we have a hard time crossing the line because of the things that hold us back. Obviously like that fear, but are there any other things that you think hold us back from whether it's taking a big risk, small risk that you see?
I guess, I would say that it would also just be almost this like need to have all of the answers, right? Like it's the fear of failure, but it's also like, well, can you give me a detailed five-year plan? And I say this all the time. Like that God's not going to give you a 5-year plan if you're not willing to be obedient in the 5-minute plan. So just be obedient in the next 5 minutes. And then he will lead you. Like, do you trust him to lead you into the next 5 years? Because more than likely, if he did show you the next 5 years, you'd be scared out of your mind, right? It would be intimidated beyond anything that you could ever even comprehend, and you'd freeze up. So just be obedient in the next 5 minutes. And can I tell another story? Is that
absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
I remember, so we moved to Alaska. Now, mind you, I was 25 when we moved to Alaska. My wife is younger than me. She was 23 years old. when she left her family and everything that she knew to like move to Alaska with this guy that she'd been married to for 8 months. Right. Yeah. A lot of people advised us against this, but we like the Lord had spoken, like we're going to do this. And we, I'll never forget this moment. It's still one of my favorite marriage moments that I've ever had with Erin. We had gotten coffee with some students that we had connected with in town, and we had like cast some vision for Chi Alpha and what it was going to look like. And we invited them all over to our house for like a barbecue Chi Alpha launch night. And we probably like contacted maybe 16, 17 students. We had no idea who was going to show up. We get everything ready. The house gets cleaned. The grill is prepped. The food's ready to go. The volleyball net's set up in the backyard. The fire's ready to go. Like the barbecue is ready, right? But we have literally no idea if anybody's coming. And we finally like slowed down for a second because it was about 10 minutes before people were supposed to show up. And Erin and I looked at each other, and the same thought like went through both of our brains. What if this doesn't work? Like, what if all of this crash lands like on the first day? And Erin looked at me and she goes, "Steve, I'm scared." And I went and I gave her a big hug and I said, "Yeah, me too." And and we like cried together and we prayed together. And it was like this moment of like, Jesus, like, either you got to show up or we're crash landing on this thing. And I don't know. I just think like that's where I always want to live my life. Like, Jesus, help me live my life in such a way in which like either help me be always on the edge of this fact of like, either you have to show up or failure is imminent. And that can look seriously, like that can look as simple as a conversation with a coworker. Like, okay, I'm going to breach this topic that I believe that Jesus could heal this situation that's happening in your life. You were vulnerable with me as my coworker about something going on in your life. I'm going to breach the topic. I'm going to bring Jesus into this thing. Jesus, if you don't show up in this conversation, this could lead to relational failure. And trust that he's going to show up in the conversation. So, yeah.
So good. So good. Steve, would you mind just kind of giving, as we kind of land the plane here, just with what you're doing with AKSP, how can people support? How can people find out more? How can people maybe even join the team? Because I know that's a big need too. Yeah.
So we're, the need in Alaska is very simple. We need more workers. Like Jesus, surprise, surprise, right? Like Jesus knew what he was talking about when he said that like the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Pray therefore that the Lord would send workers into the harvest field. Like pray that the Lord would send us workers, and pray that maybe you have a degree. Maybe you're supposed to come to Alaska and use that degree to get a job in a place where there's a desperate need for the gospel. And so right now our program is set up where anybody with a bachelor's degree within our 10-month training program, it doesn't need to be an education. It can be any bachelor's degree, can be trained to be a marketplace minister, but also can use that bachelor's degree to gain a teacher certification in Alaska to become teacher certified so they can get a job. So they could be praying about maybe that's something that the Lord wants me to do. And then be praying, just be praying for those workers. And if people want more information about what we're doing, about this fundraising campaign that we have going right now, all of that can be found at whatihave.org. Whatihave.org.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys are raising, $700,000 for your Hub One initiative, which is a mothership for all the missionaries in the villages to kind of be ministered to, equipped, and all that. So visit whatihave.org, check it out, what they're doing. But no, just so grateful for you, Steve, the friendship that that we've had for many years, the way that you challenge me, the way that you encourage me, the way that you bring out the best in me. You know, it's always fun when you marry somebody that your wife is best friends with.
Yeah.
And so it's just been a fun way
Yeah.
to be bonded. But one question that we always finish on the podcast with is, what advice would you give to your 22-year-old self?
Oh, man. 22-year-old Steve was kind of a punk. Let's see. I would say like, be ready for the Lord to start killing flesh in you. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Great.
Is that,
That's great.
Is that too extreme?
No, that was amazing. Yeah. I
Because
wouldn't expect anything less. Like,
I mean, like,
not having Steve on my podcast to say die to yourself would just be a fail of a podcast. So.
well, yeah, like, because I was like, man, I didn't realize how much pride there was in me until you move to a place where no one knows who you are. No one knows what you've done, what you've accomplished, like the disciples that you've made, whatever. And I just, yeah, the Lord just had to kill a lot of self in Steve. So it was just, I would probably give him the advice, like, be ready. It's going to be okay. You're going to survive it, but it's going to be a journey, and just embrace it. Like, embrace the scalpel of conviction and the scalpel of sanctification that the Lord is going. It's good. Like, the surgery is going to be good. So, yeah.
Love it. Love it. No, thanks, Steve. Thanks for taking time to be on the podcast and taking time to be my friend.
Thank you. This is an honor. I mean, Going Somewhere podcast. Like, I like, yeah, man. Thank you for what you do, Steven. And pretty cool. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. Love you. Thanks,
love you
everybody,
too.
for listening. We'll see you again next time on the Going Somewhere podcast.